and renamed my sample scene to courses for this lecture. So in here, UI, and then click on Canvas. Now the first thing you might notice is that we have a canvas being added, but we've also had an event system added. Now you don't really have to worry too much about the event system for now. Really, the only thing you need to know at this stage is not to delete it, because we are going to be using the event system later on. Now if we click on the canvas and take a look at the inspector, the first thing you'll notice in here is that it doesn't have a standard transform component like every image to our canvas. Now if we look closely, we can't actually see anything in our camera view here, but if we change over to the game view, then lo and behold, here is our nice big sprite. So why isn't it showing up in our scene view? And Alt, and let's pick a different option, let's move it to the top right instead. And if we do that, then notice that the anchor moves, the pivot moves as well, and so does the image. Now, some other great options within these anchor presets are these options around the edge, which will allow us to stretch the image. So if we again hold Shift, Alt, and then click on this top one, we could say stretch the image across the entire top of the screen. And notice how the anchor, which used to be a cross, has now been split down the middle. So we have 2 anchor points on this side and 2 anchor points on this side. And options like this that stretch across the top or bottom of the screen are great for things like menu bars and stuff like that. But for us, we're going to be adding a background image to our canvas. So we're actually going to use this one in the bottom right corner. So if we hold Shift, Alt, and then click on this, it will break the anchors apart again, and it will stretch the image across the entire canvas. And this will be the case regardless of the aspect ratio or resolution that your game is in. And while we're on the subject of resolutions, we could reasonably use these different anchors and pivots and setups to design a game that can work on multiple different resolutions and aspect ratios. But since this is our first foray into the UI and the rect transform, let's actually just design our game with one specific resolution in mind. And that's going to be the most common resolution, which is HD. So over in our game view, let's change from free aspect to full HD 1920 by 1080. And now whenever we look at our game view, we'll always have a good idea making this the background image for our game. I'm actually going to turn this into a pre-visualization image, which will help us to lay out elements of our game as we move forward. Drag it into the source image. And because I want this to appear on top of everything else and be slightly faded out so we can see behind it, I'm going to change the color. And I'm just going to bring the alpha value down to say around 0.25. And on the canvas itself, I'm going to change the canvas sort order and on the canvas itself, for behind it, I'm going to change the color, and I'm just going to bring the alpha value down to say around 0.25. And on the canvas itself, I'm going to change the canvas sort order and just increase that up to say 100. All this really means is that it will appear on top of any other canvases that we add with a lower sort order. And finally, I'm going to rename my canvas to the pre-visualization canvas. And on the canvas itself, I'm going to change the canvas sort order and just increase that up to say 100. All this really means is that it will appear on top of any other canvases that we add with a lower sort order. And finally, I'm going to rename my canvas to the pre-visualization canvas. And that, I think, brings us nicely on to your challenge. I want you to add a second go over to our hierarchy area, right click, go down to UI, and then select canvas. This will add a second canvas, and I'm going to rename this to the background canvas. Then we're going to right click on our canvas, head down to UI again, and right click on our canvas, head down to UI again, and go up to image. We can then make this stretch across the entire screen by going to our anchor presets, holding Shift Alt and then selecting this bottom right option. And then finally, we can take our background sprite image and drag that into the source image. If we want to see our background unobscured, then we can just click on our pre-visualization canvas and hide it. And with our canvas all set up, that puts us in a great place for the next lecture, where we're going to start adding some text to our canvas. So I'll see you there.